What's up, guys? Welcome back to Michigan Muckraker. My name's Michelle. Today is December 20th of 2023, and I stumbled upon an article on this practice that is being done in schools all around the country. But this article came out of the Detroit Free Press, and so it's about Michigan schools in particular. And one of them using this practice 4,000 times over a course of 5 years, but still, the practice itself is called Seclusion and Restraint, excuse me. Seclusion and Restraint. And it's been being utilized for some time, but there's been a lot more studies, and basically parents have become more aware of this practice in the public school system. And so they're rallying up against it. Now, there's a lot going on in the public school system, so of course I want to address that really quick. It isn't all the teachers' fault, but there are a lot of problems with teachers, and of course there are good teachers sprinkled throughout public school systems still. But due to the nature of the sickness that has spread across the entire United States, all the institutions, and across the world, if we're going to be honest, it really is a sickness, so you can't just blame the teachers. The teachers are supposed to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, and unfortunately, they're not doing that because No Child Left Behind in 2001 and other policies, basically the government getting too involved. So there are issues there. I understand the problems that teachers have because they're not supposed to be teaching behavior. And unfortunately, there are a lot of behavioral issues with our children. But of course, fatherless homes is a huge problem. And so it branches out into many different facets, and I'm well aware of this. So when I discuss everything today, I'm not trying to bash all teachers, but unfortunately, it's a huge problem in our school systems. The teachers, the education, the Common Core that has destroyed our math capabilities here in America. And that's part of this whole bringing down America, really. Bill Gates was involved with Common Core, and that was 2010. So again, so many issues. It's not black and white, but this article goes into the abuses that have happened because it does cause trauma, these policies. And so we're going to get into that. The other thing I wanted to get into is, if I hopefully get time to, the cost of electric vehicles, the supply chain issues, and more specifically, the Republic of Congo, although they're just calling it Congo now. Doesn't seem like much of a republic now that there's slavery brought back because of cobalt being there. But the United Nations is pulling out of the Congo now, right now. Now, there's several reasons. Hopefully I can get into those, but it is absolutely involved with that supply chain. You know, they are pillaging, and the United Nations is involved in that pillaging. So hopefully I get to that. But the other thing that's happening here in Michigan that I want to talk to you about, that's going to be happening everywhere as well, Michigan is just the example I use, is AI with their facial recognition being utilized at the Capitol buildings of each state, including, of course, Washington, D.C., but Michigan is now utilizing it. And they have a security fund that was prompted by the fake kidnapping, the entrapment that was done to Michiganders. That was the FBI that really was making all the plans. And they even had cards that had $5,000 on it given to them by the government to try to get them to buy guns and ammo. It was entrapment. That's why all of them were let go. But that still created the security fund. So now our money is paying for them to beef up their security, all just in time for what's going to happen planned for 2024. It's so perfectly orchestrated. They're playing a game of chess. They're grandmaster chess players, and I don't even know if we're sitting at the table. But the good news is, just like Harry Potter, it sounds cheesy, but love does win in the end, and you bumble your way through it. You know, Harry Potter never knows all of the magic Voldemort does, but that's what makes him good. And so he wins in the end. It's the perfect hero's journey for millennials. That's why I utilize it all the time. But a well-told story is just a translation of a message that was translated well. And so that's why it resonates. And it resonated with children all over the world. It was a huge sensation for a reason. So yes, I utilize it a lot, but I am a Harry Potter fan, and it gives me faith that, again, in the end, love wins. Evil kills himself. Harry doesn't even have to kill Voldemort. He kills himself. Spoiler alert. But anyway, I'm going to get into these topics. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. Shelly says, good morning, Michelle. Thank you for all you do. Finally caught a live show. I am so glad that you're here. Hopefully you learned something new. I mean, it's egregious what's going on, but again, many facets. So one more thing before I jump in. Let's see. This article I talked about on Monday about the United States entering 2024 with the smallest military in over 80 years. I had it in the description, and YouTube has decided that it's spam, even though it's an MSN article. Daily Mail, maybe they think everything Daily Mail is spam. I'm not sure. But they have since deleted. You cannot see the article link in the description any longer. And I just wanted to report that and let you know why it's not there. And, just something that's weird to me. Again, it's true that Gen Z, there's even TikTok sensations going on right now where Gen Z is saying, do not join the military. The food sucks. They don't clothe you very well. Like, basically, the military sucks. And Gen Z, they're saying it en masse on TikTok. And so recruitment is down. And unfortunately, while I think that's a good thing because the government is corrupt, our government is looking to replace the people, and they're looking to the illegals for that. But that was on Monday. Let's get into this story of the school. Michigan educators reported using potentially traumatic tactics at record pace last year. Oh, one more thing. I apologize. I thought mistakenly that today, for some reason, was the state of the state address for Whitmer, and I put that in the community tab. I apologize. I was looking at too many Detroit Free Press articles. One of them was from January. And so that article said that there was a state of the state address on Wednesday. That was this year's address. So I will be covering it live next year when it happens at the end of January sometime. So if you're interested in that, please consider subscribing, and we'll watch it live together. Michigan educators reported using seclusion and restraint, potentially traumatic maneuvers meant only for emergencies, on students with disabilities more last academic year than almost any other time since lawmakers forced schools to track how often they applied the controversial tactics on public school children, state data shows. In the most recent school year, educators secluded students with disabilities 11,910 times, almost 30% more than the previous school year, and the most ever recorded since Michigan first began collecting this data in the 2017-2018 school year. They restrained students with disabilities 9,076 times, up to 20% from the last school year. The numbers don't bode well for at least one Michigan school on the national scale either. Now, obviously, with COVID and everything that happened, there's going to be even more issues and behavioral issues. We've basically run a gigantic experiment on our society the last 3 years by shutting down as long as we did, especially here in Michigan. So, again, it's not all the teachers' fault. However, majority of teachers that I have met, I would not ever have my child be taught by that individual because they had very sick ideas. Again, I bring up the one individual worked at Starbucks with me, an elementary school teacher that would continually say that she hated breeders. She was a lesbian, with colored hair, blue or whatever, and she would literally say that. And so I could not believe it until, of course, I experienced it. And then another individual, a Mexican, would say things about all white people. And so it's very real what's happening. And it's colleges definitely are perpetuating sick ideas. So again, if I had children, unfortunately I don't, but if I did, I would teach them myself because nobody would love my children. That's my prodigy, right? My ideas and my blood and my DNA is in that child. And so I'm 100% for human life, human beings, the whole thing. Newly released federal data shows that Cider, I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly, Education Center, a rural school serving 74 students in Montcalm County, recorded secluding children with disabilities more times in one academic year than any other school in the nation. 734 instances. The data is from 2020 to 2021 school year, the most recent year for which federal information is available. That year's data may be affected by the coronavirus pandemic when schools were often intermittently closed, leading to lower numbers. These results mirror the findings of a 2022 press release investigation that showed despite state laws crafted to limit the polarizing practices, Michigan schools are using them more than ever. While federal law enforcement and education officials are forcing school districts across the country to abandon seclusion and curtail restraint, state officials are not ready to make significant changes. Key Michigan legislators told the Free Press everyone wants to ensure children get the care and treatment they need, but the lawmakers say they are still studying the practices to determine what, if any, updates are necessary. I'm still very much in the learning process. I don't think I've put anything on the table or taken anything off, said State House Education Committee Chairman Matt Colzar from Plymouth during a recent phone interview. The State Senate Education Committee Chairwoman Paul Hankey from Livonia agreed, saying she's not ready to commit to any specific policy. I'm not saying I'm not open to anything, Paul Hankey said in a phone interview, Am I open to ending seclusion and limiting restraint, which seems to be something the other states are leaning to? I guess their answer is, I don't know. But you are the Education Committee Chairwoman. You need to find something out. The biggest teachers union in the state, may resist changes. There we go. And you know that the Democratic Party and the teachers unions go together. The biggest teacher union in the state may resist changes that it thinks create too many limits on the practices, arguing complex student behavioral issues bedevil educators in the classroom. Again, though, they should be educating students and other students that are acting correctly or what have you. They're not having behavioral issues. Those kids are also being harmed because the teacher's not able to teach them. They're preoccupied with one student. So all around, it's all bad from so many angles. My question, why? My question becomes, if done appropriately, and if, as a last resort, does that trauma of secluding or restraining a student outweigh or in some ways undermine the trauma experienced by other students in the class, said Doug Pratt, a spokesman for the Michigan Education Association. There are so many, you can't click anywhere besides in the middle here, otherwise you're going to get an ad or a different thing pop up. It's crazy. Experts say restraint and seclusion can inflict significant trauma on a child, of course, a sentiment echoed by students left in seclusion rooms or physically restricted from moving. Yes, who likes to be held down? And under Michigan laws passed in 2016 that were meant to curb the use of these practices, restraint and seclusion should be used only in emergencies when a student poses a threat to themselves or others. Educators say growing behavioral issues sometimes leave them no choice but to turn to restraint and seclusion. The decision, a dire call for more help. So again, what do laws mean? Just more and more restrictions, but do they really do anything? And there's always unintended consequences for every new government intervention help. The vast majority of students secluded and restrained, both in Michigan and across the country, are children with diagnosed disabilities. And now think about it. Autism is up immensely. It's unfortunate. I have an article here somewhere. I'll have to find it when I put on a video because I have an article that discusses autism, and I think it's important to understand something about autism itself. So we're going to keep going with this really quick, though. The numbers are too high, and laws are too vague. Oh, of course. Says Casey Atala, a parent of a son with disability, who she said suffered substantial trauma due to seclusion and restraint at a school in West Michigan. She's also one of the co-leaders of Michigan Advocates to End Seclusion and Restraint, a parent-led group formed about a year ago. Atala's group wants the state to emphasize research-backed and trauma-informed training and provide more support for educators and students to intervene before a mental health crisis reaches a point where adults turn to seclusion and restraint. Okay, so now your teachers aren't teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic anymore. And your schools aren't even, like, they're putting hospitals on your school. And in this article, I think it alludes to having psychiatric mental health capabilities right there at the school. So they're big pharma and the government are working together with their public-private partnership, and they're merging hospital with school, and there will be no separation. It's very dangerous stuff. Very dangerous stuff. If we can get way ahead of this, way upstream, before the crisis situation happens, then we can prevent some of the situations from even occurring in the first place. Unfortunately, these kids that need special attention should not be in public school with the rest of the children, because it's not fair to the teacher either. The teacher can't teach and do the behavioral issues, be a healthcare worker at the same time. It's not what they were taught to do. If we can't, okay, yes, coming down here, the school district that oversees the CITER Center with the most instances of seclusion of students with disabilities in the nation is Montcalm Area Intermediate School District. The district is under investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice for its use of the tactics. The U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights also opened a review in July, records show. Free press journalists first reported that Montcalm had isolated students 4,000 times in 5 years. 4,000 times. More than any other school district in Michigan, and that administrators would not disclose why. In more than a year since, Montcalm officials have said little else about their restraint and seclusion practices. And in fact, you come over to this other article, then they say that they can't even get a FOIA request. So this is the small school district in Michigan's Montcalm County isolated the kids 4,000 times in 5 years. It is unclear why Montcalm, a rural district of about 480 students, midway between Grand Rapids and Saginaw, used seclusion so many more times than other districts that reported to the state. The district also uses restraint, another tactic that involves adults using force to restrict a child's movement, but educators there use seclusion far more often than numbers show. Montcalm in 2021 and 2022 school year secluded or restrained 39% of its students with disabilities, a rate that far outpaced other districts in the state. The next highest district, Allegan Area Educational Service Agency, Kalamazoo Regional Educational Service Agency, Van Buren and Shiawassee Regional Education, all secluded or restrained 10% of students with disabilities. Many districts in Michigan recorded no numbers. Montcalm officials have twice denied a Michigan Freedom of Information Act request from the Free Press for documents that would explain the district's actions. How is it that we have to beg for information and we get denied? Whose kids are these? I will have linked down in the description below. I can't remember her name right now, but there's a YouTube channel that focuses on school systems and communism, and how communism is seeping into the school system. And in communism, everybody owns the children because there is no private property, and they basically think of children as property of the parents, and that's wrong to them. The property is not theirs. And even Biden said that the kids are not, they're everybody's children, or something alluding to that. So this is very dangerous ideas that are happening. And again, I highly recommend her channel. She goes deep into that and goes directly to the source. She listens to educators that are educating educators about these issues and how to deal with certain issues. It's, again, you need to get your kid out of public school. It's government school. That's pretty much it on that one. We're going to go back to the free press. I'll have all the articles in the description as long as YouTube allows it and doesn't call it spam or misinformation or what have you. The censorship era is really awful, because how can you think if you're not free to see all the information for yourself? You can't. They tell you how to think. That's the problem with censorship. Since 2020, federal law enforcement resolved investigations into at least 6 districts across the country over possible discriminatory, seclusion, and restraint practices. In 5 of the inquiries, districts agreed to prohibit seclusion. Montcalm officials did not answer specific questions posed by Free Press reporters for this story. Instead, Superintendent Kyle Hamlin emailed a statement reading, in part, "In every learning environment, students will have challenging moments with their peers or in the learning process. When that occurs, our team utilizes a range of tools that allow students to de-escalate or engage in an appropriate fashion." I didn't know that our superintendents were politicians. That was very, very good political statement right there, don't you think? I'm going to check real quick, make sure that the Rumble is live. And it is. Very good. And I'm sorry, but it looks like all of my highlights disappeared when that issue happened, so I'm just going to have to go with it. The larger set of state numbers also raises questions about the use of restraint and seclusion in Michigan schools and the transparency around the use of these practices. Federal education officials are investigating 12 Michigan districts for potentially discriminatory restraint and seclusion practices, second in the nation only to Texas, where public schools serve 4 times the number of students. We're second, and they have 4 times more. These investigations can languish, though. Of course they can, because bureaucracy causes a bunch of malfunctions. The more rules, the worse off we are. Freedom. That's what we need, not central planning. Inquiries into allegations involving ISD. I need to go and learn all of these areas in Michigan if I'm going to be reporting on Michigan like this. So it's on the list for my vacation time. I'm going to do it. When the Free Press first reported that Michigan educators had restrained or secluded more than 90,000 students in the 5 years since lawmakers declared they'd essentially banned the practice, a spokesman for Governor Gretchen Whitmer said it was clear the state could improve its restraints and seclusion laws. Since then, no lawmaker has introduced legislation aimed at any reform, because what does it matter if no one follows them? Existing laws come with no consequences for people who restrain or seclude a child in a manner that violates the law. Again, but they set up the system. How can you punish a teacher that does it too much? You're going to fire them? Who's going to replace them? Nobody wants to teach. No one wants to work. There's shortages everywhere. People are too sick a lot of times nowadays, unfortunately, to work. So what can you do? And then you can't take your kid out because both parents are working, and both parents need to work in order to supply for the system has been set up to make us debt slaves. The system has been set up to screw us over. And so the system does need to change, but certainly we need to do it in the fashion of, again, freedom, not the way that the Fourth Industrial Revolution, Klaus Schwab and his think tanks and his money and his billionaires and his penetrating of the cabinets. We don't want those ideas, because those guys are eugenicists, okay? Let's just be real. They want to control the herd. That's what they think of us. And so we need to not trust them, and especially with something as priceless and as precious as children, who are the future. They want to be the only ones that can actually create real life. Everybody else will have, artificial womb babies, designer babies, where you go in and you say, oh, I want this, and this on a tablet. And then the baby somehow is in an ecto-life pod thing and grows in their goo, where Sorry, I know I keep getting sidetracked. Since then, okay, both Kolzar and Polhanke spent years as classroom teachers before running for office. Neither could recall substantial usage of seclusion or restraint, at least on students with whom they regularly interacted during their tenures. They also acknowledged a need for more resources dedicated to mental health programming. Polhanke pointed to more than $300 million in the most recently approved state budget dedicated to help schools hire psychologists and social workers, along with more broadly addressing student safety. Again, are these schools or are they prisons? Are they schools or are they hospitals? Or are they merging schools, prisons, and hospitals all in one? Because that's what it looks like to me. The new school in Muskegon has like all these security measures and different, not just AI recognition, but then you got locking down of, windows or something, all kinds of technology that makes it seem more like a prison than a school where you're supposed to just be educated on reading, writing, and arithmetic. Connie says, hello, Michelle. Here to hear more in-depth research and to see more of their dystopian plans for the rest of us. I'm so thankful that you're here with me, Connie, and that we have a small but growing group of individuals that they want to know what's going on. They want to stop it. And so that's the first step, awareness. If we get all the ants to understand that we don't need to give our food to the grasshoppers, then we'll stop giving our food to the grasshoppers. All we have to do is say no. But thank you guys for joining me. I really do appreciate it. A little bit more in this article, and then I have, of course, supporting articles just to get into a little bit more of what these seclusion and restraint practices are really doing. And then also the what's going on in Rockford schools, Rockford being sued right now because parents found out their children is being misgendered. Which mean in the way that I have a female child, a little girl, and the school is calling her he and by a boy name, and the parents didn't know. And so the school is actually manipulating the child, grooming them, you might say, to be trans. So we're going to get into that too. Excuse me. So specifically, the federal definition of seclusion includes the word alone, while the state definition does not, in the context of leaving a student in a room. Polhanke said she'd heard from at least one district that this perceived disparity may create confusion on what constitutes seclusion and what needs to be reported. Frequently, schools that use seclusion have designated areas for the practice, aptly named seclusion rooms. The law states schools must file a record every time either practice is used. A standardized version of this record created by the Michigan Department of Education notes that seclusion and restraint are allowed only during emergencies. Who's to define an emergency? Same thing with hate speech and everything else. Who defines these terms when you create new terms? If you look at aligning the definitions, pumping more funding and support into schools, and getting better acute psychiatric centers around Michigan, I think those three things taken together can help, Polhanke said. Michigan advocates to end seclusion and restraint want changes to other definitions in state law. The group's position statement calls for revisions on how the law describes emergency restraint and seclusion. The definition of what constitutes an emergency is too vague, of course, said Atala and Melissa Friel, another co-leader of the group and parent of a child exposed to restraint and seclusion. Under state law, both tactics are described as last resort emergency safety interventions. An emergency situation is defined as a situation in which a pupil's behavior poses imminent risk to the safety of the individual pupil or to the safety of others. An emergency situation requires an immediate intervention. What constitutes an imminent risk to the safety of others? Does kicking someone or throwing a shoe or even saying a verbal threat, does that constitute a threat to safety? That's very unclear, Atala said. And then, of course, we do need to keep educators safe. They shouldn't, I don't know if you guys saw the video of a teacher that she took away the individual's Switch that he had in class, because of course he shouldn't be playing a Nintendo Switch video game in class, and he went behind her and knocked her out from behind, punched her in the back of the head. She was seriously injured. And so, obviously, educators need to be safe too. Nobody should be hit in the back of the head, obviously. And so, there are, again, a variety of issues that need to be dealt with. Zoltan the Man, good morning, fam. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining. We're just discussing this seclusion practice that we're about to get in the details of that practice. Almost done with this article. So, reform may be both welcome and come with resistance from the state's largest teachers union, with Michigan Education Association. Pratt cited an October survey finding that the majority of educators who participated said they faced disruptive behavior in the classroom and that 49% have had to evacuate classrooms due to unsafe student behavior. More than a quarter, 27%, say they have been physically injured by a student. These students, though, also are nihilistic and narcissistic. It's all about them, and there is no meaning to life. So when you have that, along with fatherless homes, busy parents, too much access to the things that you can get access to on technology, all of these things are, our children have been abandoned in a way, and we need to fix that. And so that's the first thing. How do you fix that? You have to have fathers and mothers in the home, because that's how you have a balanced individual that can be raised to contribute to society in a productive manner, and that individual will be happy to do so, because the world is a good world to live in, and the institutions take care of them and they take care of the institutions. That would be a world to live in if we even have institutions. Some people say anarchy, but again, it's just on each individual. It's on the mindset of the human being. And right now we're sick. And unfortunately, we're sick because we have had the death of God in hearts and minds of men in the last 50 years. So we need to get the values down, the ethics, virtues rather than vices. And right now, I mean, listen to music, it's all vice, baby. Vice, vice, vice. Vice City. Parents deserve to know that educators are helping all of their students and that it doesn't tilt too far one way or the other in terms of putting the health, safety, and education of an individual student exhibiting disruptive behaviors up against the health, safety, and education of everybody else in the classroom, he said. Absolutely. Pratt argues that the solution must be more nuanced than a state law change. Of course. It doesn't matter how many laws you put in place. It doesn't matter what government you have. If the individual psyche is sick, if the spirit is sick, then we're going to be sick. That's the big takeaway. Can't be a one-size-fits-all solution. It's got to involve additional training. It has to involve making sure that every student is safe and every educator is safe. So, the Alliance Against Seclusion and Restraint is going to discuss a little bit more about this, ending the school to prison pipeline. Our mission is to inform changes in policy and practices to reduce, eliminate the use of punitive discipline and outdated behavioral management approaches, and end the school to prison pipeline. Again, teachers shouldn't be teaching behavior. That's the parents' responsibility. So parents are failing, teachers are failing, society is failing. Restraint and seclusion are crisis management strategies that are used in many schools across the nation and the world. Physical restraint is exactly what it sounds like. It is a personal restriction that immobilizes or reduces the ability of a student to move his or her torso, arms, legs, or head freely. Seclusion is the involuntary confinement of a student alone in a room or area from which the student is physically prevented from leaving. These interventions are dangerous and have led to serious injuries and even death in students, teachers, and staff. It has a 7-year-old died from suffocating, being put on the ground too much in one session. It's awful to think about. Okay, so I will, again, have it shared down below if you want to watch the entire video. but we're going to look just really quick, and then we're going to listen and then look at the comments of this conversation about our education system.
And then specific healthcare services related to sexual health, mental health, substance abuse treatment. So for those three things, the parents do not have to know, right?
Yes, correct. Do not have to know, do not have to be asked in advance, and it will be confidential. You will not have the right to know if your child has received one of these services in this school clinic.
Which are under sexual health, mental health, or substance abuse treatment. And that's kind of broad.
It seems very broad to me. I think I'd like to know if my child has asked for something involving substance abuse, sexual health, mental health. I'd like to know.
Very concerning, obviously. And then what's this Real Housewife of Michigan? I'm not a big fan. I'm not gonna lie. These laws have been in place for years. If your 17-year-old is going on their own to get medical services, maybe look at why. Don't be a crappy parent, but instead be present in your kid's life. Make sure they feel comfortable enough to come to you if they need mental health or reproductive health services. Now, to a certain extent, you could say, okay, maybe. And then you come down here, 99% of cases, the reason why is radical leftist indoctrination in public schools. Every parent who actually cares about their children needs to get them out of public schools. I wouldn't say that it's just radical leftists, although, like I said, communism, Marxism is absolutely being taught to teachers. Again, somebody that's diving into that specifically on her channel has gone into it and proven it. And so that's unfortunately happening, but there are also things that are happening. I mean, Bush is the one, he's a Republican, that did the No Child Left Behind. So they lay the foundations as well. Republicans are just as complicit, is what I'm trying to say. Real Housewife of Michigan, yikes. And I believe every parent who is consumed by conspiracy theories and propaganda have no business homeschooling their kids. So that's an issue, because just like this person says, we already know you leftists want to control other people's children and force your beliefs on them. Tell us something we don't know. Now, logic states that if you can't physically have children yourself, then if you want to educate children to your way of thinking, you have to educate other people's children, which that in of itself means that it's not an optimal way of being, because you can't procreate. So the optimal way of being is a man and a woman, because then you can that's the only way you can create actual life. And again, I have a couple articles if I can get to them that proves that. Real Housewife of Michigan, I have my own children to raise. I don't want to raise yours too. You literally just said parents who don't think like you have no business homeschooling their kids. You want your views shoved onto other people's children. Doesn't mean you have to do it. Public schools are happy to do it for you. I stand by what I said. I didn't say people who don't believe what I do shouldn't homeschool. I said people who believe in crazy conspiracy theories and propaganda shouldn't homeschool. There is a difference. Now, the problem is, define crazy conspiracy theorist. If you don't go with what the government says, then you're wrong and your kids should be taken away from you. That you shouldn't have the right to teach your kid something that's maybe counter to the narrative that's being shoved down our throats. It's a problem. Zoltan the man says, my twin sister is a high school literature teacher, and she has horror stories from kids at school. It's so much worse than anyone thinks. I cannot even imagine. I see some stories on Twitter. I got one to show you. That's really sad. And you know what? I'll play it right now. But yeah, the solution obviously is as complex as the problem. And I'm sorry for your twin sister that she's got to deal with that. There are teachers out there that want to just teach literature. That's awesome. I would love to someday teach literature, but unfortunately we have things like this going on in schools. I should have given a warning. I'm sorry. That kid is okay. The report is he's okay. But this is just one instance of things that are going on in the school. Again, the individual that got punched in the back of the head, the teacher that got punched in the back of the head. I'm sure I could find it. I mean, let's see, teacher attacked who tried to step in. That's in the UK. So, of course, this is not just an American issue. This is lockstep, as Rockefeller would say. All of the countries worked in lockstep and have disintegrated Western society as best as they could. All right, so it's just going to show the same thing over and over. I'm going to keep going. Oh, we'll do this one.
How do you handle disruptive kids in class? Some schools are using controversial seclusion rooms. Lisa Guerrero has our report, which we warn includes disturbing video.
Disturbing scenes like this are playing out in schools across the USA. Children being restrained and shut away into small rooms. It's known as restraint and seclusion, a legal but controversial method for dealing with special needs students in crisis. It's only meant to be used in extreme situations when a child is putting themselves or others in danger. But these parents say some schools are going too far.
His fight or flight instinct is so strong that if he feels threatened, he'll go all in.
Greg and Jennifer Fell say they were shocked to discover their son Peyton, who has behavioral issues from a rare brain tumor, was restrained and secluded in this room for over an hour at his school in Texas. In this surveillance footage obtained by Inside Edition, you can hear 12-year-old Peyton screaming as school staff hold him down, his hands behind his back.
Can you believe this is
another
happening?
Staff member entering the room, eating a snack, while Peyton, wearing a spit mask, calls out in distress.
This is incredibly disturbing to watch.
Very disturbing. I want to just go through that video and grab my kid and bring him home to safety.
The parents say this all started because Peyton was spitting at a teacher, but they believe the school still went too far.
You're not saying that, my child should never be restrained. You're saying there's a proper way to do this.
Absolutely. We are not the parents that say our kid's perfect. How dare you say he's done something wrong? We deal with things like this at home too. So we know what they have to deal with. Peyton's disability cannot be scared out of him.
Peyton's school says those employees no longer work there and they have retrained their staff.
Across the country, an estimated 2,300 students are restrained and put in seclusion rooms every day for misbehavior. Sometimes that offense can be something small, like throwing a pencil. Sometimes violent behavior is involved.
But are these methods really effective? Can they turn deadly? 16-year-old Cornelius Frederick threw a sandwich in a Michigan school lunchroom. Video shows employees restraining him for 12 minutes. 2 days later, Cornelius, who suffered behavioral issues, died in the hospital from cardiac arrest. The school's license was revoked, and 2 of the employees involved pleaded guilty to manslaughter.
It is an inhumane and barbaric practice.
Brian Colley is the former lieutenant governor of Michigan, a state with some of the highest numbers of restraints and seclusions in the country, over 90,000 since 2017.
We owe it to our kids, especially kids with disabilities that have so many odds stacked against them, to stop these practices, and replace them with a supportive environment that understands and has a professional response that helps to solve problems and get them back on track.
We are trauma.
We need to have special school for those teachers, and they need to go to a special school. It's just it's the way it is. So the other issue that's happening is the parents in Rockford are suing over the pronouns. 2 parents have filed a lawsuit against Rockford Public School District for using male pronouns for their child without their knowledge. According to the court documents, Dan and Jennifer Mead's child, who is biologically female and identifies as male, attended the school district starting in kindergarten. How can they say this? A biological female that identifies as a male. The child can't get a tattoo. The child can't decide anything for themselves. How can they decide that? And again, this is this idea that you are a god. You can decide. Nature doesn't decide. It's not nature. It's not God. It's not creation. It's not that you were born either a male or a female. It's that I can choose. I can say, no, I'm not happy with what you chose for me. I'm going to choose for myself. And it's not reality. And unfortunately, a lot of people are being harmed. And so I'm for helping people. And so I think we need to tell them the truth. And that is the truth. In middle school, the students started meeting with a school counselor. The school counselor was in regular contact with the parents about the child, discussing things like their mental health, schoolwork, and recent autism diagnosis. And I can't find the article I had about autism because the article stated that in the Amish community, 1 in 15,000 people, children, had autism. 1. And if you read the article, that was one of the only children in the Amish community that got the immunizations, that got the shots. You can't make this stuff up. I live around a bunch of Amish. They don't have autism like we do. It's like 1 in 600 for normal non-Amish communities, like 1 in 630 something. I will have the link in the description once I find it. I'm sorry, I've lost it. But that tells you something. There is mercury, and you can't deny it. If you do the research, there's mercury in it. And if that mercury gets in a specific part of the brain, we're not meant to be that way. We're not meant to have metal in our brain that way. Okay? And so, again, 1 in 15,000, and that just happens to be the individual that got a shot. That was in Ohio. That was the pool, the test pool. 15,000 from Ohio, Amish people. In May of 2022, the student asked the counselor to tell teachers to use he, him pronouns and a masculine name when referring to the student. That fall, as the then 13-year-old entered 8th grade, teachers referred to the student with he, him pronouns and used the student's preferred masculine name, but the school did not notify the parents. The Amish were right. They are always holding it down. You're absolutely right. The Amish are. They're going to be okay as long as the government doesn't mess with them. Now, the government has been messing with them more the last couple of years, putting more and more regulations on them and what they're selling and such, and how they can sell it. No one with the school district told them that the school district had begun to treat her as a boy by calling her a masculine name and by male pronouns. Vincent Wagner, an attorney for the parents, told News 8. According to the lawsuit, it is the district's policy to use students' chosen name and pronouns and to not notify parents if a student is not out to them. In October of 2022, the Meads found out the school had been referring to their child that he, him pronouns when a school employee sent over an official report and had inadvertently included a note from a teacher that used he, him pronouns and referred to the student with a preferred name. That's how the parents found out. How is that right? Again, obviously children are not private property, but the children are the parents. They came from the parents. That is where the responsibility lies and should stay with, not the government, not the community. Now, obviously it takes a village, but first is the parents and then the village. The Meads ultimately withdrew their student from the school and switched to homeschooling. They weren't able to help her in a difficult time in her life, Wagner said, so it prevented them from helping her, and that denied them their constitutional rights. Schools shouldn't keep information like that from parents. The lawsuit, filed Monday by the Alliance Defending Freedom on behalf of the parents, says by referring to the Meads' child by a masculine name and pronouns without notifying them, the school violated the First and 14th Amendment rights. The Meads are Christian and say socially transitioning their child from their biological sex is against their religious beliefs. It's biologically impossible to. Parents, not the government, have the right to direct the upbringing, education, and health care of their children. ADF Senior Counsel Kate Anderson, director of ADF's Central for Parents' Rights, said in a release. Schools should never deliberately hide vital information from parents, yet that's exactly what the Rockford Public School District did. District employees didn't even notify Dan and Jennifer, let alone seek their consent, before beginning to call their young daughter by a masculine name and male pronouns. Worse, district policy required employees to alter official records to conceal the district's actions. By intentionally concealing this information from the Meads, the school district violated their constitutionally protected right to make decisions regarding their daughter's education and well-being, and destroyed the trust of the Mead family had placed in the district and its employees. Now, I'm going to tell a personal story because I think it's important for people to understand. I do not hate trans people. I don't hate anybody. I love them. I think that there is a mental health issue there. And the reason I can say that confidently is when I was 10, 11, 12, the only kids around here were boys. And so, of course, I would be excluded from certain things. It's just the nature of children and society and reality. And it's just, it's the way things are. Sometimes that'll happen. Sometimes, though, the older kids secluded the younger kids. Or, there's a million different ways that kids will seclude other kids. It happens, okay? I'm okay. But I was secluded from being able to use a bathroom at a neighbor's house because I was a girl. And it was the rule of the boy that was at the house, and he was older as well. None of it really matters that much except for the fact that it upset me. And I went to my mom and I said, I wish that I was a boy because then I could use that bathroom, it's something so small. And luckily my mom said to me, well, unfortunately, you can never be a boy. You are a girl and you will be a woman. And then she explained to me all the reasons why that was a good thing to the best of her ability and why as I grew up, it wouldn't be so bad. It was an awkward stage, going from 10 to 14, 16 is very awkward for girls and boys, but this epidemic is happening among girls more. And who knows why? I haven't done the research on that. Somebody knows why. But my point being, I thank God my mom told me the truth because she was right. I just have more, I'm more masculine tendencies, I guess you'd say. I joined the military as a cop. I was feminist then too, to put that out there, which I'm not anymore. But the whole point is, as a kid, you're confused, and there are certain situations that might make it desirable for you to be the gender that you can't be, but the truth needs to prevail. And in the end, I'm so thankful because I have not destroyed my body. God's gift to me, the place that my soul sits, right? I thank God that I haven't done any kind of surgery to it. And at one point, that was the crossroads, So just a little bit of information for you so that you know that my position, again, is not that I hate trans people whatsoever. I'm not transphobic. I'm not afraid of them. None of that. I just love people, and I think that the truth, again, must prevail, and that in the end, that will help. It's better for a bitter truth than a sweet, sweet lie every time. Because in the end, it worked out for me. And for many other people, the people that got surgery and, destroyed their body, you can't change that. You can't go back. So we need to stop that from happening to begin with by just telling the truth. Now that I'm done with my rant, Rockford Public School Superintendent Stephen Matthews said the district had not yet served with the legal documents. As such, we have not read through them completely, he said in a statement. We respect the privacy of this family and as such have no comment at this time. Our staff continue to support all the students and their families as we work together to help our students learn and grow. Darnell, who is the director of services and LGBTQ plus. That's wrong now, by the way. It's LGBTQIA plus, according to some government institution. Out front Kalamazoo and uses they them pronouns said they're not surprised by the lawsuit. We've seen a lot of this lately, a lot of youth feeling more comfortable coming out and living their authentic lives. And unfortunately, a lot of adults, whether that be school systems or parents, not showing up and affirming them, they said. They're sharing a vulnerable part of who they are. We don't have to understand it to respect it, to dignify it. I couldn't disagree more. They said the case highlights the importance of safe spaces because parents don't all react to the same to their kids coming out. We see situations all the time where that escalates to verbal and physical violence at home to the kid coming out, Darnell said. Of course, physical violence should not be coming out. Just a simple truth. My mom sat me down and again explained to me all of the good things about being a woman. And I didn't believe it at the time, but now I do. There are good things about being a woman. And we should embrace those things instead of just trying to be men. Now, again, I say that I like G.I. Joes. I see nothing wrong with a little girl playing with G.I. Joes in the sandbox. And, I'm not for that. Like, getting rid of that, I mean. But there are strengths and weaknesses to each gender, and you can't change it. So I think that is all I had for the school. I need to just double check. Yes. Oh, before I get into the human cost of lives, really quick. South American gang targets dozens of mansions in Detroit. I don't know if you guys heard about this. This came out at the beginning of December. Violent crime is quickly spreading to suburbia. A new report shows gangs from South America have targeted mansions in wealthy neighborhoods across the Detroit metro area. This comes as the Biden admin's disastrous open border policies have flooded the country with millions of illegal immigrants, as well as progressive cities fail to enforce common sense law and order. Now, Detroit has facial recognition sprinkled throughout the city, and they were trying to stop it for a year, but of course they got turned down. So they're continuing on with their surveillance state down there in Detroit. But with that said, shouldn't these people be, found? Because AI surveillance, they are wearing masks though. So maybe the masks will stop the AI. I think that's why they want to do the eyes, right? The biometric data through the eye, through the optic. So that way, even if you're wearing a mask, like they want you to do sometimes, to show that you're complacent, maybe you won't be able to get away from the AI if they have your eyeball scanned in the records. WXYZ Detroit reported at least 30 to 40 homes in upscale neighborhoods across Detroit have been targeted by highly functional and well-trained gangs from South America this fall. Thieves are using high-tech jammers to disable Wi-Fi home security systems. They're primarily after cash, jewelry, and expensive handbags. Last week, Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard said thieves are part of transnational gangs operating across the country and are targeting multi-million-dollar homes. In recent months, we have shared an emerging theme of thieves across the country targeting wealthy households. This disturbing trend comes as illegal migrant encounters by the Customs and Border Protection on the southern border hit a record high. President Biden's disastrous open southern border has flooded the country with 9 million illegals since he took office. Also, Democrat lawmakers, some of whom are Soros-backed, failed to enforce common sense law and order, transforming some metros into lawless, crime-ridden hellholes. Democrats are turning this nation into a third world-like state. Now criminals, emboldened by failed progressive policies, have the rich in their crosshairs in suburbia, right? Well, eat the rich. Why do you think they're all putting bunkers down? Why do you think that they're putting the surveillance in? Let's see, where's that at? Too many things. Here we are. Michigan Capitol to enforce gun ban with artificial intelligence. Our authorities at the Michigan State Capitol are beginning to use artificial intelligence to to detect any firearms in a bid to increase security amid a growing national wave of political threats and violence. Now, why would that be? Is it because they've been lying and cheating and stealing from us, and we're finally like looking at them and saying, hey, we're tired of you lying, cheating, and stealing from us. Stop it. And they're like, no. And they keep doing it now that we're looking at them, and they keep pickpocketing us, and they keep slapping us in the face a little bit, and they're punching, and we're just standing there like, stop it. Stop it. And like, eventually, we're going to say, okay, enough is enough, right? And so when that happens, they will have the AI, artificial, or the facial recognition, AI facial recognition in place. They'll have bars set in place, you know, on the windows from a push of a button, and like just the top of the line security using our tax dollars to protect them. They're making the Capitol a bunker, just like all these rich people are building bunkers, because they know that eventually the ants will figure out that the freaking government and these rich billionaire tech giants are trying to destroy us, control us, bag and tag us, whatever you want to call it. And so, yeah, it would be a tragedy, but I choose to laugh because that's really the choice you have. Tragedy to comedy, comedy to tragedy. Each day is both, really, but laugh or cry. Company officials at the Zero Eyes firm announced the deployment Monday, saying Michigan is the first state capital in the nation to use its gun detection technology, which was also implemented last year at Oxford High School in the wake of mass shooting there. Problem, reaction, solution, man. The system, which will analyze footage from existing video cameras to identify brandished or otherwise drawn firearms, represents the latest in a series of escalating security measures at the Capitol following armed protests in 2020. So nothing happened. Everyone was just exercising their freedom, their right to be armed and to protest around the Capitol, where a tyrant was living in 2020, locking down private businesses. The government should never have been able to do that. And now that's the excuse for them buffing up their security against us, because that's really what it is, and all of the illegal people that they are bringing in through the border. It's nuts. The system, this one. The Michigan Capitol Commission earlier this year approved installation of metal detectors inside the building and implemented a full indoor gun ban, except for lawmakers with a concealed weapons permit. Again, rules for thee, but not for me. How are you going to prove they have a concealed weapons permit? Whatever. These people, they're doing it all right while we're right in front of our face. Commissioners last month unanimously approved the lease with Zero Eyes, a Pennsylvania-based firm, which is expected to cost $3,000 a month. So now we're paying $3,000 a month, taxpayers, for her to feel safe and secure against us. The money will come from existing security funding first proposed by Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who was the subject of a kidnapping plot orchestrated by men who also discussed storming the Capitol. So we know that was entrapment. And so the whole security fund being created because of this kidnapping plot was all a freaking sham. It's just another layer of protection, Bob Blackshaw, executive director of the State Capitol Commission, told Bridge, Michigan. Our biggest goal, as we've said from day one, is to decrease any potential of a mass shooting and increase our level of safety for the people who work here and visit here. The artificial intelligence system will tap into existing video surveillance at the Capitol, including inside the building and outside grounds where openly carried firearms are still allowed. Okay, so now you go there and you peacefully protest like you did in 2020 because it's still allowed outside the building, but AI is zooming in on all your faces and looking at everyone. You're getting put on a list of potential domestic terrorists. If a gun is identified, images will be immediately reviewed by trained specialists at Zero Eye, including military and law enforcement veterans, the company said Monday. If those specialists confirm a threat, they'll send alerts and other actionable intelligence to Capitol Police in a matter of seconds, according to the firm. Okay, so again, the individuals are defining a threat. What might be threatening to one individual, not threatening to another. This is all dangerous, that now that individual is coming between me and my rights. Capitol officials tested the technology last week. It was working as of Friday, but was not yet being used for live reporting, Blackshaw told Bridge, Michigan. Live reporting, is that like going directly to the police, or are they going to have it? Like, I need to look up what live reporting they're talking about. The system will help. Oh, look it. Can I? No, I can't click on that. It's my own highlight. Sorry. The system will help state police identify any guns drawn inside the building in the event a person is able to bypass existing metal detectors, Blackshaw said. If there's a lone wolf outside, before they even get to the building, we'll know if they draw a weapon, he added. So, it just gives police opportunity to make better decisions and quicker decisions based on the intelligence that was provided. The police officers are supposed to be protecting and securing we the people, not themselves, which is the government, right? But unfortunately now they are just attack dogs for the government. That's why when I got out, there was no way in holy hell I would ever be a cop. And that was all the way back in 2013. And now it's like 100 times that, my feelings towards being a police officer, because it's, again, it's not protecting and serving anymore. It's collecting and harassing. And I'm not for that one bit. Michigan State Capitol Lansing has deployed a proactive solution from AI-based gun detection video analytics platform Zero Eyes to protect government officials and visitors from gun-related violence. This marks the first implementation within a state capitol building for Zero Eyes, which holds the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Safety Act designation. So, government approved, baby. Zero Eyes AI gun detection intelligence situation awareness software will be layered on the Capitol's existing digital security cameras. If a gun is identified, images will instantly be shared. See, this is a problem, another problem with electric vehicles, because they can just add stuff to the electric vehicle, like a mod, a digital mod, just like this is a digital mod, a software that you just add to your existing system. Now, if Ford owns my electric vehicle, then they could put whatever software they want on it, and what am I supposed to do about it? It's all interconnected, this Industry 4.0 crap. If these experts determine that the threat is valid, they will dispatch alerts and actual intelligence, including visual description, gun type, and last known location to internal security teams and the local police force in as fast as 3 to 5 seconds from detection. I want visitors and those that come here every day to understand that, irrespective of external circumstances, our building remains a secure haven. And Zero Eyes plays a pivotal role in ensuring that safety, he says. The accuracy of this technology and proficiency of its staff are truly exceptional. Encompassing approximately 10 acres, the Michigan State Capitol and grounds is a 145-year-old historical landmark that annually hosts over 350 events and welcomes more than 11,000 visitors. Oh, no. 115,000 visitors, including families and school children. Given its significant foot traffic, the building is equipped with an array of security systems designed to deter the presence of guns and weapons. Zero Eyes will amplify the current security by providing additional situational awareness inside the building, as well as enhanced visibility around the premises. They're safe in there, but we certainly aren't. I would never go to the Capitol again. I think that's all I had on those, on the security system. Next, got a rake, Ann Arbor phasing in a ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. So, quickly, Ann Arbor is banning gas-powered blowers, citing noise and pollution. They can still be used from October through May, but will be completely prohibited by January of 2028. under a 4-year phase-out, MLive reported. The city council approved the ordinance 10-0 Monday, and said the transition should provide time for landscape contractors to find alternative blowers. That's what the council member Jen Cornell said. Lawn care workers will be happy to not be abused by having to wear gasoline backpacks and being endangered every day, said resident Joan Lowingston, a former council member. Ann Arbor population is 123,000, is the home of University of Michigan, and is known for having a progressive government. Oh yeah. Violations will carry fines of $100 to $250, depending on the number of offenses. The money will be used to help low-income residents and small businesses acquire leaf blowers that don't run on gas. Socialism at its finest. In 2019, the city banned outdoor maintenance equipment with 2 gas cycle engines downtown. So 2 strokes banned from Ann Arbor. So that sucks for your dirt bikes. Oh, wait, yeah, there's no way you're going to have a dirt bike in Ann Arbor. I'm not really familiar with Ann Arbor either, by the way. I've been there one time, and that was enough for me. I got COVID. Thank you very much, Ann Arbor. I never want to go back. Woman punched in the face as protesters of Israeli-Hamas war disrupt holiday party in Detroit. So that happened. It was something we never expected, said 91-year-old Bernice Smith about the shoving match and what some have called a violent disturbance that was sparked during the holiday party for the 13th Congressional District Democratic Party Saturday evening. So it's not just Republicans, because earlier this year there was a physical fight at some kind of Republican meeting. Now, Democrats have the same thing going on, which just means, well, we know society is disintegrating because we don't have values, right? So we're just going to see more debauchery as the year 2024 progresses. We're going to see debauchery like we've never seen before. I mean, I'm not going to cover it here, but I'm sure you guys have seen what happened at the Capitol. The film that was created at the Capitol and went around all over. Unfortunately, I saw it on Twitter. Yeah. So there's a lot of debauchery happening inside the Capitol, outside the Capitol, and here at this meeting party thing. So unfortunately, I won't be able to blow it up on this. Oh, there we go. That's 6 minutes.
You know, this has been an interesting year.
Okay. I was hoping it would just, I don't know where the punching is.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Oh, there's some shoving.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
And, you know, politicians know that this is going to happen more and more often. So the protesters, some wearing shirts that read Free Palestine, were calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. And this brings us to the United Nations, which they are supposed to vote again on a ceasefire, but they postponed it one more day, and tomorrow is the winter solstice. And there's a lot of power in the stars, at least billionaires and almost trillionaires believe that and go by that. So tomorrow, they might, the United Nations, vote on a ceasefire. Again, I still think there's going to be a peace treaty by the end of the year. That's where my money's at. Not really. That was just a figure of speech. Not betting literal money. Okay, don't make me fill out a 1099. But anyway, one woman was punched in the face as she and a number of other people attending the party tried to push the protesters outside the venue. Jonathan Kinlock, chair of the 13th Congressional District Democratic Party, said protesters refused to leave the venue after he and the owner demanded that they exit. Cell phones captured much of the disturbance that spilled outside, where protesters began banging on the window. This is not going to give you support for your cause, Thander said during a press conference Monday. I welcome them to come to my office. I welcome them to invite me to town halls where I could come and we can have dialogue. No arrests were made, but Detroit police said they are investigating the incident. Now, I do agree with that. That isn't how you change hearts and minds, but is that what they want to do? I don't know. It's questionable. Let's see. I gotta share this. This is more about what I talked about rather on Monday, but I still think that you should see a few minutes. I'm not going to go through the entire 10 minutes, but this is at the border right now.
Americans. I'm sorry. Your country gets away. Yeah, you dirty Americans. Get out of the way. This is the illegal immigrants' country. What do you guys think you're doing? This country's for illegal immigrants. You guys are dirty Americans. Get out of the way. How rude of you. How rude of you to think you have a country anymore. Hey, let's get another truck up here so no media can see this. In fact, let's just ban the media. Hey, guys, we're going to need you to shut your cameras off. We cannot document Biden's border invasion, okay? Everybody shut your cameras down. No free speech. The Border Patrol's here to tell me to shut up, too. Sir, he says. An American citizen. An American citizen. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This guy's ridiculous. The other media to be able to cover this. No media. No media, though. Hey, no media. Nobody see the illegal immigrants. It's not happening. It's not happening. Sir, am I okay to be upset? Do I have the right to redress grievances here? But you're not being. You're being discourteous to your friends. I'm being discourteous. A wide open border, but I'm being discourteous. I love it. Allow them. I love it. They can record. Nobody's stopping them. Nobody's stopping them except you guys. Look, she's trying to stop the media. You guys don't want us to see this. You drove a bus through a ravine. You drove a bus through a ravine so we couldn't see this. Do you think the American people are stupid? Do you guys think the American people are stupid? Do you guys like this? You guys get out of the way, dirty Americans. Shut off your cameras. Nobody's allowed to see. There is no Biden border invasion. Shut your cameras off. Everybody go home. What have you done for this country? Excuse me? What have you done for this country? What does that have to do with anything?
What have you done for this country?
I pay for their bills. I pay taxes. Okay, so what's your point? So again, what have you done for this country? So you're okay with the illegal invasion? You're cool with that? Should we fund endless wars in Ukraine? Should we fund endless illegal immigration? Is that your policy? You like that? Are they illegal? Yes. Because according to me, from what I understood, the asylum is still. Okay, so we should just get rid of the whole immigration system then, right? So let's get rid. Well, then why have it? Why have an immigration system? That's not what I'm saying at all. So let's have an open border and a welfare state. This is an attack on the country, folks. That's what this is. If you can't see it, you're oblivious. And we sit here and film it and take this from our government. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But hey, don't worry. They'll get taken care of. They'll get food. They'll get clothes. They'll get everything they need.
They'll get armed security to let them in, to help them in. And here's the thing. What are these people doing? You're destroying yourselves by following orders. And this is the tale as old as time, right? You read Ordinary Men. Well, I highly recommend it. It's a difficult one to get through, but it's about ordinary men that ended up killing 500,000 Jews, and it was like less than 40 of them, so 37 or something men, ordinary men, end up killing that many just by following orders, just by doing what they were told to do to get along and to keep getting paid or whatever. It's awful, and it's this slippery slope that happens, but these people are just following orders and they're helping destroy their own nation.
You dirty Americans need to shut up and get out of the way. Look at this. They get protected with guns, but the Democrats want to take guns from you. So guns to protect the illegal immigrants, but y'all aren't allowed to have guns when the Democrats ban all your assault weapons. This is just ludicrous, man. This is a clown world that I live in. What a joke.
I'm not going to watch the rest of it. I will leave that down below. Very good reporting. I'm thankful for these individuals. One of them is not Sydney Watson. I'm sorry. I will have her link down in the description as well. I have seen her on The Blaze, but she doesn't work there anymore. So very good reporting that needs to be done that you will not see on your mainstream legacy bought and paid for media, like Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, what have you. They're all owned by Vanguard and BlackRock. So this brings us to the UN vote on Gaza, delayed another day amid talks to avoid a U.S. veto. So tomorrow they should be voting on whether or not there will be a ceasefire. United Nations Security Council vote on a bid to boost aid deliveries to the Gaza Strip has been delayed another day as talks continue to try and avoid a third U.S. veto of action over the 2-month-long Israel-Hamas war, diplomats said on Tuesday. Now, the UN votes unanimously to start the withdrawal of peacekeepers from the Congo by year's end. Is this because they are done with the cobalt? They got enough cobalt that they needed? Or is it a combination of that and, of course, there it is. And the UN having 9 South African peacekeepers in Congo accused of sexual assault. So not only did they pillage, because right here, UN drone nabbed ferrying gold and weapon supplies. They're leaving.
That is believed to have a mechanical
They're trying to
problem
stop them from
and
leaving
dropped has been found in a
Congo.
village of the
So
Democratic Republic of Congo
they
with a
literally
consignment of gold, parachutes, and guns.
pillaged the Congo, and that absolutely has to do with EVs and the cobalt. But the fact that the United Nations peacekeepers are rapists, you know, they rape and pillage. That's what the United Nations does. They're supposed to be peacekeepers and secure a country, and yet they're caught literally raping and pillaging. And I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying the R word because we live in a censored society. Sorry. I wanted to come over here to the EV battery now. Jumping around just a bit. It is all connected. Here it is. Human cost of electric vehicle. The forced march to EVs brings hardship from the mine to the factory floor. Now again, if not for the cobalt in the Congo, would the United Nations have been there peacekeeping? Really, again, stealing from them? And now that they're leaving, is it because they got charged? Or is it because they're done pillaging? What does that say about the market? Zoltan the Man, nothing new under the sun, same script over and over and over. I know. It's just different variations. But again, is that the nature of this reality? Is it really a hero's journey? And like every couple thousand years is a new story, a new book that's being told? I don't know. Obviously, none of us know. All we can do is try to be the best individual we can while we're here. And again, you need to have morals and ethics to do that. The growing environmental costs of forced transition to electric vehicles are becoming clear. Unfortunately, these costs are only the tip of the iceberg. The human costs of reworking global transportation options are proving to be much more worrisome. Manufacturing and supply chains for electric vehicles are impacting human lives from the beginning of their supply chain to the factory floor. Because of this, the employment and human rights issues surrounding electric vehicles are far greater than those of conventional vehicles. According to the America First Policy Institute, EVs require significantly less labor to produce than comparable gasoline-powered vehicles. Conventional vehicles have 2,000 moving parts in their powertrains, while Tesla EV drivetrains only have 17. As a result, Biden's admin push for electric vehicles would result in a loss of around 117,000 auto industry jobs. That's without AI being included. Even factoring in jobs created by EV production, the result is a net loss to American auto workers. Critics suggest that clinging to inefficient or outdated technologies as a means of maintaining jobs is akin to advocating for the resurrection of the carriage or buggy whip manufacturing industry. But that analogy fails here. It fails, period. If jobs were transitioned as a result of what economist Joseph Schumpeter called creative destruction, that process would drive automobile prices lower and offer customers a safer, better, more efficient, and innovative product. However, in the case of EVs, laying off productive workers to help promote the production of a heavily subsidized and substandard product does not improve the industry, the economy, or the well-being of consumers, logically. Looking back at the supply chain, EV production requires around 6 times the minerals that conventional vehicles consume. 6 times. This creates increased demand for elements such as cobalt, which is mainly mined in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Again, slavery there, United Nations, pillaging. It's not a republic, if it ever was, unfortunately. It is not anymore. Congolese cobalt comes from one of 2 sources: large industrial mining operations and smaller illegal so-called artisanal mines. According to the Washington Post, industrial sites such as this mine expose workers to dangerous conditions and poor treatments. Stories about poor treatment were repeated in interviews with current and former workers who had been injured in industrial mines scattered throughout the southeastern Congo, the Post stated. And I do actually have an article about one of the women that was raped and had a child. It was 4 years ago, took that long. And so the child now is like 3 or 4 years old. But that's another thing that's different there than here. Is it? Yeah, I'll get into that when I get to the story. Stories about poor treatment. Okay, so many of these employees asked to stay anonymous out of fear of retaliation. Some described their employer's refusal to pay for medical treatment when they were injured at work. One worker said he had worked 14 straight months at the mine without a weekend off. Both of these accounts describe actions that are illegal under the laws of the Congo. But these abuses persist. Workers often find themselves out of work after an on-the-job injury, leaving them unable to support their families and in danger of losing their homes. Chronically underpaid miners tell stories of children dying from malnutrition and easily cured sicknesses. However, these tales from miners working for legally licensed and permitted mining companies pale in comparison to the conditions faced by the country's 200,000 artisanal miners, slaves. Unlike industrial mine workers, the artisanal miners work for as little as a few dollars a day, extracting toxic cobalt in dangerous conditions with hand tools and no protective gear. I have covered that before, and it's all because of the book. I'll pull it out. Well, I'll just pull out the dust jacket because that's all that came, but Cobalt Red. How the blood of the Congo powers our lives. So check that out. But that's when I first saw the awful conditions on the Joe Rogan podcast, actually, of these children and young men, 9 times out of 10, that are basically slaves. Artisanal mines have no heavy equipment to assist in evacuation, and miners spend hours each day and night struggling in unsupported underground tunnels. The poor construction of such mines often results in collapses, which can kill and injure miners, many as young as 7 years old. Additionally, a lack of respirators means workers breathe in toxic dust and fumes. Connie says, I think a lot more happened in the late 1800s that appears to have been another reset, then tried again between 1910 and 1929. Definitely, we don't know anything really about our history. I mean, look at our brutalist architecture compared to those, lesser than. We always think about people in the past. They didn't have as much as we do now. It's been a continual upgrade in society and technology, but I don't think so at all. There has definitely been several times when it's like a reset, like we're going to go through now, where the world changes so completely. But again, you can't say that they were lesser than. Their architecture was beautiful. I mean, the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. Hello? Can we do that nowadays? If we can, why don't we? Why don't we create beautiful architecture anymore? Anyway, another side tangent. Doctors in 2012 found preliminary evidence of an increased risk of a baby being born with a visible birth defect if the father worked in the Congo's mining industry. Wow. So if the sperm actually carried the issue from the father to the child? I don't know about that. Urinary levels, because the sins of the father, but his health. I'm not, what do you guys think? That's crazy. Obviously, the doctors say they found preliminary evidence of increased risk of a baby being born with a visible birth defect if the father worked in the mining industry, Congo's mining industry. That's weird. Urinary levels of cobalt from people who live near mines or smelters are roughly 43 times higher than those of control groups. These higher levels are also reported in children. Tartaria, says Holtan the Man. Yes, I know all about Tartaria. Connie is onto something, absolutely. Yes. Really quick, in the near future, it might be in these next couple weeks, my husband and I are talking about sitting down and having him tell his story and about space and his journey with his ideas on space. But, Tartaria could be thrown in there because those are his two really big things that he's been diving into in these last 9-10 years that we've been doing research. And the fact that both of us have our own things that we like is very helpful, because I am not that into space or Tartaria, like to dive deep in it, but it's interesting for sure. But I, for some reason, am fascinated with this economic development, Federal Reserve and stuff. So together, I get a more complete picture. And so I like the Tartaria stuff. I don't know what we can know about it though, but it sure is interesting. In his blockbuster book, Cobalt Red, author and researcher, there we go, Siddharth Kara, sorry, I knew how to pronounce the name like 9 months ago when I first heard about the Cobalt Red and this individual, but it's been a long time and names and I don't get along, describes how the cobalt produced by artisanal mines can be purchased from an informal ecosystem of traders and depots, also known as buying houses. It's a bunch of words that I'm not even going to try. These are the fuzzy linkages that serve to launder minerals from the artisanal sources into the formal supply chain. It is through these fuzzy linkages that hand-mined cobalt is mixed with product from the industrial mines, making it impossible to verify that the cobalt in a specific battery came from a legitimate industrial source. So again, you can't prove that it didn't come from slavery, that cobalt that's in your electric vehicle. And, I gotta be fair, of course, it's in chips and everything else. So all our technology does need cobalt, but EV batteries need a lot more. Like, I think like 1,000 times more is, don't quote me on that, but that's what came to my mind. A lot more. Finally, even if one could verify and track ethically sourced minerals, it is likely the batteries produced with those minerals and metals relied on forced labor somewhere in the international supply chain. China dominates rare earth processing with at least 85% of global rare earth processing capacity, according to the Institute for Energy Research. But many Chinese companies that refine minerals or manufacture batteries and components have ties to the Xinjiang region. Comments from senior officials in the U.S. Defense Department indicate that as many as 3 million Uyghurs and other ethnic minorities in the region may be forcibly interned and working in what Chinese officials have called re-education camps. As a result, it is increasingly likely that at some point, at some location around the world, the components in an EV have passed through the hands of child laborers or modern-day slaves. While electric vehicles have been touted as the clean future of mobility, their negative impacts on human lives include misery and abuse at every level of production. Because we didn't even discuss lithium in this article. Because of their impact on the auto industry and the near impossibility of determining whether components were ethically sourced and produced, the human costs of electric vehicles cast a long shadow on their clean image. Absolutely. I have, let me see, is it this one? Sorry, guys, have a lot here. I'm just trying to get the right one. UN peacekeepers or not. Okay, so this is not the one I was looking for. And that will be, aha. UN peacekeeping has a sexual abuse problem. And this was all the way back in 2020, all the way, 3 years ago. A Haitian woman was selling charcoal on the empty edges of her small town when a white uniformed United Nations peacekeeper offered her a lift in his marked vehicle. He sexually assaulted her shortly after she got in. I could not fight back. When I interviewed her in 2016, more than 4 years after the assault, I felt outside of my body like I did not have all my senses. After we talked, she introduced me to her daughter, conceived from the assault. The 4-year-old had notably paler skin and hair than Badur. I just tell people it's none of their business when they look at her funny. Though she loves her daughter unconditionally, the young mother's depression deepened whenever the girl complained of hunger. Well, of course, because who wants to see their child hungry? No one. And the fact is, it's obviously a terrible thing that this person was assaulted. And I think it's a crime. Of course, it's a crime to do that. But I'm glad that that little girl is in the world and that her mother loves her and is taking care of her, even though the father did that terrible thing. And I know people that are a product of assault, and they are very thankful for their lives. And so that is why I am so pro-life, because again, it's awful, but it's not the child's fault. And so I wish that more people would do what this woman did and not blame the child for the problem, for the assault, but to just love the daughter unconditionally and do the best you can. And just turn that hate into love. Be a magician. Be a magic user by transforming that hate, that hateful act, into a loving act. And that is the power women have. Only a woman has that power. And there are so many powers that only women have that have been completely degraded by society. And so I am sorry that happened to her, but I'm thankful that she did just love the child. Anyway, for years, Associated Press and other media outlets have published credible reports of sexual abuse and exploitation by the UN peacekeeping force in Haiti, which concluded its operation in 2017. The details are shocking. Of course, Clintons are involved in all that, and Podesta is involved in all that, but yet he's still working in our government right now. If you type in Podesta in Twitter, you will see some of the most sadistic, sick things that you wouldn't imagine. And that individual is the climate czar for Biden's administration. Sexual exploitation and abuse is a broad term that includes crimes like rape, but also violates the UN's ban on any sexual relationship that includes abuse of position of vulnerability, which essentially covers the local population everywhere UN peacekeepers deploy. Poverty, conflict, and chaos all make women and girls profoundly vulnerable to abuse by UN soldiers. Bottom line is, when you have that's why, again, I don't like the United Nations. It's a nation above nations. These individuals that went into that country, they don't care about the members of that country. They're not a part of that country. They have no vested interest in the people that live there or what happens to them. And so it's very, very easy to abuse such a situation. You should never have an outside force come in. They're mercenaries. They're basically mercenaries. Haiti is just one of many countries where peacekeepers have assaulted women and girls or sexually exploited them in exchange for food or support. So that's the United Nations. That's the peacekeepers of the world. That's really the New World Order. Okay, that's the New World Order. The law, I just wanted to share this. The laws of physics were broken in 2023 by sperm. New Scientist most popular story of the year was about the discovery that sperm breaks Isaac Newton's third law of motion. So I thought that was interesting because it has to do with life. And it's just one more thing we have identified that we really don't know about life and everything that it entails. This is my video of the day to give you inspiration perhaps, or, you know, basically a more lighthearted or, you know, positive thing. This is life.
So this is the documented moment of conception. And the sperm enters the egg, and there's this poof of light that comes off of it. Scientists are studying this, and they're looking at it, and they're like, okay, well, it looks like it's a release of zinc, a burst of zinc that comes off the egg, and it creates this appearance. But any way you slice it, they can't explain away that light happens when life happens. Is that amazing? Light happens when life happens. In the beginning, God spoke, boom, life entered the earth, light happened. When God spoke you into being, light happened. Life came and light happened. Biblically, we equate light with life. Light and life go together. It is the nature of God. And so when we walk in light, we are walking in life.
Let there be light, he said. I found that and I had to share it with you guys because I thought, dang, you know, genetically complete at the moment of conception, if you want to be scientific, but that is spiritual. And you can't have science without rules, which means you need a grand architect to create those rules. But I thought that was beautiful. I wanted to share with you. Zoltan the man, amen. Yes, it's crazy what technology can show you. Oh, the work of John Levy is eye-opening. He is on YouTube. John Levy, that sounds familiar. What's his main topic or focus? I'm going to look into him. Thank you. Always love new information. So this is something that is a little bit less positive. This is just one person's opinion, but I do watch a lot of his stuff and think he knows some of what's going on. You know, he has a piece of the puzzle. Let's say that. He has a piece that we need to look at. This individual says we are going to war next year. No, I'm not talking about Israel or Palestine. Honestly, we have problems much larger than anything happening outside this great nation. What Colorado did to President Trump was a shot heard around the world. It's the first time a court kept a presidential candidate off the ballot under an 1868 provision of the Constitution that prevents insurrectionists from holding office. We had to fight for our country. You won't catch me dead waving another flag when our country has completed its dictatorial transition. We have to be strong. We have to ignore distractions. In the coming months, we have to fight for only America and her children. So I, like a libertarian said somewhere on here, I don't like Trump, but he definitely shouldn't be withheld from the ballot. How is that democracy? What the hell is going on? Again, it's all a puppet show from my opinion, but inside the show, they really want us to go to war with each other. So I do think that's part of it. I wonder if Kavanaugh is going to be like the swing vote or something. If Kavanaugh is going to come back into the story. I don't know. But Colorado, it just happened, and it is a very key, significant piece of American history. So we should write this down in our journal. If you journal, analog, if you keep any kind of analog records, this one is one for the history books for sure. So I wanted to make you aware of that. I'm sure you were already, but right here. So this is the article I couldn't find earlier. I'm going to show it really quick. Autism in America. According to the federal government, 1 in 166. Holy crap, I was wrong. 1 in 166, not 1 in 600. Way more than what I thought. 1 in 166 children have autism, while the rate for the Amish around Middlefield, Ohio is 1 in 15,000. Though the Amish boy Middlefield received routine childhood immunizations, unlike other children, his autism is still considered an unknown etiology, meaning the cause is undetermined. So they won't admit that that's what it is, but one of the few. Again, you can say that there's no science behind it, but science is bought and paid for, it's captured. You need to trust the mothers, the actual people that deal directly with a child that acted one way before the vaccination and then another after. That is real proof. I don't need studies, empirical, blah, blah, blah. No. I trust the mother that experienced that problem. And there have been several cases reported, people sharing their experience on Twitter, on different websites, where they say, you know, their two-year-old was completely different after those 2-year-old round of shots. That's the main culprit, is the 2-year-old shot, 18-month shots, 2-year-old shots. So let's see. I'm pretty sure. I have one more. Tiny swimming robots reach their target faster thanks to AI nudges. This came out in 2021. So we have tiny swimming robot capabilities, in case you didn't know. Machine learning could help tiny micro robots swim through a fluid and reach their goal without being knocked off target by random motion of particles they encounter on their journey. Microrobotic swimmers are often designed to mimic the way bacteria can propel themselves through a fluid. That's all we do. We mimic God's creation. We try, but only one way to create life, which we just saw, sperm and the egg. That's it. And that is God-given to us. But bacteria have one key advantage over the robots. A real bacterium can sense where to go and decide that it goes in that direction because it wants food. A real bacterium, we can't do that, can sense. We cannot program sense. I'm listening to Sense and Sensibility right now, too. It's really good. I like it. Kind of girly, of course, but, you know, like Pride and Prejudice. Still really good, though. You can enjoy it if you're a male. Anyway, you can't program sense. And so that is like more proof, I guess, of intelligent design, of a difference between our creation, our AI creation, and how it'll never be sentient. Because that sense portion of it can't do it. That's God's territory. And the fact that they're trying is, again, more proof we are in a Babylonian sort of time where there are certain groups of people that want to be gods and shake their fist at God and say, no, I'm not listening to you. I'm going to do what I want. You know, it's kind of like we're a bunch of rotten children. We're being really naughty. Denying, I don't know. I'm kind of going off on a tangent. I do want to say, too, by the way, you know, I am not two consenting adults. You know, I said earlier in this live stream that the optimal way of being is a man and a woman, but that I do not think that it should be illegal or people should be, you know, like V for Vendetta, where the government comes in and takes away gay and lesbian individuals. Obviously, I'm not for that whatsoever. If two consenting adults want to live their life that way, I'm for liberty and freedom. So I just wanted to make that clear, okay? And again, I don't hate anybody. I love humanity because God created it, right? And myself included. I'm thankful for the life that I was given. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I hope I didn't have anybody misunderstand me. Shikos and his colleagues decided to give their micro-robot swimmers a brain, a machine learning algorithm that rewards good movements in the direction of a designed target. That's how AI works in general. That's how programming works. And the problem is, who defines good? Whoops, good. Who defines that? We get our ideas from I think of it like the ether, like an infinite pool that's already there. We don't really create anything, we just discover it. And I think that a really good story is just a good translation of that message that you get from intelligent design, what have you, the pool, and we can't program that pool. We can't do that for AI. And that's the difference between us. And you know, people are free to disagree, at least for now. Pretty soon we'll all have to think the same, just like the communists want. But I think that that is all I have for you today. Let me go up here. I would love for your feedback. You know, comment in the comment section down below if you have known anyone that has children that has dealt with the situations that are going on in the public school systems. You know, I'm interested to hear not just from Michiganders, of course, but from anybody that has those kinds of issues that have happened. It's important for us to understand exactly how it happens and what's going on, and be aware. So, and then again, the United Nations, let me know. What do you guys think? Are they going to, you know, have some kind of conclusion to this conflict, at least on a piece of paper, before the end of the year? Do you think that the winter solstice tomorrow is going to hold any kind of big changes that we're going to have to deal with? And I'm sure you guys have seen there's some reports on different cyber attacks already starting to happen. But just like a regular pandemic, it starts with, oh, a case here, a case there, and then eventually it leads to the chaos and the lockdowns and everything else. So I do think that we're starting to see the first quakes of the cyber pandemic, but I personally don't think we're going to see the devastating blow that's set to happen until later on, I think October of 2024. But who knows? I mean, they could bump up the timeline. They could change things. The Space Force was it was set to be in Colorado under, yeah, I mean, Biden set it up. So it was in Colorado, but then he wanted to change it to Alabama, and Biden said, no, we're not changing it to Alabama. And now it is officially up and running. So if they did change it to Alabama, it wouldn't have been up and running till 2030. So the fact they have it up and running now makes me wonder, did they change their plans? Are they like bumping up the timeline? Are we learning the truth too fast? Because I do think that, of course, balance comes into play. A lot of factors and variables happen that can't be accounted for because this world's fun like that, right? And so their plans might need to change based on stuff that we do or different truths that come out and that they didn't expect or didn't want to come out. But they're working really hard on censoring. YouTube, again, calling the MSN article a spam, calling it spam or misinformation. In fact, I might post it in the community tab. I took a picture, and if I can post it in the community tab and you want to see the exact message I got from YouTube in my email saying, you know, we took this down, then I will show that. So, because I think it's important to know exactly how we're being censored. Another way, if you post a comment down below about the vaccines in any negative light, they hide it. They don't delete it, but you have to go to newest first. You have to change the order of the comments. And if you do that, you'll see comments that you didn't see previously. And normally those comments are negative towards the vaccine. So they're doing censorship in so many different ways that you might not be aware of. And again, it changes the nature of your world if your information, you know, is changed, the input. So Connie says John Levy covers history of architecture, previous civilizations, what happened in the 1800s, early 1900s, and all that aluminum pumped into the blood and eventually the brain has a detrimental effect. Absolutely. We don't know what we're doing to ourselves and why. Why are we doing that? I mean, if you think about it, really, You take a step back, because my whole life I've gotten all the shots. Okay, I have 4 pages front and back of vaccines. Okay, so why though? Why do we do that? They say it's to stop, diseases, but again, sanitation and refrigeration eliminated a lot of disease. Not pooping next to what you eat eliminates a lot of disease. So do we even need these vaccines at all? Any of them? Any of them? We need to ask ourselves that. And we certainly should not be giving them to children. I'm sorry, but your immune system for the first year is developing. Why would you attack it with something through a needle when it's not even developed yet? Like, don't you think you're setting up your child's biological systems up for failure? I mean, if you don't believe in God, but you believe in evolution, then you believe in millions or billions or whatever years of creating what we have today, which is like, should be the perfect immune system, right? This is what survived the survival of the fittest. This immune system is what survived. It was the fittest thing, and thus its survival. So why would you mess with that? Why would you trust a human being that doesn't know a damn thing about the human body whatsoever, especially holistically? Now we got specialization, just like when you read these Russian books. They talk about the Germans and how they like to specialize, and that specialization leads to problems because you don't look at the whole body. And when you don't look at the whole picture, then you create more problems than you solve, potentially. And so that same ideology, the German ideology, for whatever reason, maybe Operation Paperclip was part of it, has seeped in dramatically over here. But we've been having vaccines since the early 1900s. So we've been having eugenics. And that is Corey's Diggs talked about eugenics and how it is that vaccines are linked with it. So, we've been duped, and we are in a time where things are being revealed. If you want to get your children vaccinated, fine, but I think doing it at a young age, I mean, obviously, I think you shouldn't do it at all, but if you want to do it when they're older, then it's safer. And that just makes sense, right? I mean, if you're their children, they're still growing and their immune system is still developing. Why would you have man-made stuff affect that intelligently designed immune system? So that's my thoughts on that. I really appreciate you guys sharing this information. I'm going to look into John Levy, and I will let you know if I have, again, the name sounds familiar, but I can't keep all the historians straight. Let me know what you guys think. I think that this might be my last video for a couple weeks, except for I'll be on Turn the Page with Janine on Rumble Friday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that might be my last for this year. But when I come back, I got stuff on space and the Michigan Healthy Climate Plan. Hopefully doing more live streams at township halls and stuff. So stick around. Hopefully I can reveal more information that's revealed to me, and together we can be more aware and help our neighbors to survive. So once again, love your neighbor, learn who they are. That is the solution, the only one that I can find, the only one that you can take actionable steps to make the world a better place. Baby steps, like Bob from What About Bob? I don't know if you guys saw that Bill Murray movie. It's hilarious. But he says baby steps the entire movie pretty much. And it's about him trying to not be neurotic. Let's say that, neurotic. Did you look up Topher HQ? I have not. Where should I look it up? Should I look it up on Rumble or YouTube, Twitter? I mean, I will type it into whatever one right now so that way I can look into it. I'm double checking, make sure I didn't miss anything. You have an excellent Christmas as well to you too. Thank you, Zoltan the man. Merry Christmas. I'm not for this happy holiday stuff because Christmas. It's, Christ is the reason for the season. And I'm not a Christian. However, I see the merits in Christianity, and I think that you should take the good for what it is. And so I think that this season is about love, not about presents. So try really hard to set aside your differences with your family members, if it's possible, and to have good, informative conversations, and try to communicate different ideas as best as you can without upsetting anyone. This is an issue that I have myself, honestly. I try not to talk about most things with most people in day-to-day life because most people, unfortunately, are married to their ideas. And so when I question their idea, they think that I'm questioning them or what have you. And, unfortunately, that is the majority of society, right? If you disagree with me, we can't get along for some reason. We have to think exactly alike in order for us to have a conversation. But then what fun is that? And how do you grow? How do you level up? But I say do not avoid conversation, because you would be surprised at how similar other individuals in your family may feel. Normally, it's the solutions to the problems that people disagree on. It's not the problems themselves. So maybe focus on the problems themselves when you have conversations with people that think completely different than you do. But either way, the end result is to try to understand and love your neighbor, but not to the expense where you get stabbed in the back. So balance in all things. Don't be naive, but also don't be hateful, angry, like majority of society wants you to be. So that's my message, my last little message. I love you all very much. I hope you have a good Christmas. I hope you spend time again with family and friends, because you can always make more money. You cannot create time. So I love you guys. I'll see you hopefully Friday. And if I have any more concrete plans for next week and what my husband and I are going to do with the space conversation, with just basically me letting him talk, doing a little bit of interview, more of a conversation with him. I'll have more details on that on Friday, possibly. But otherwise, the Tuesday after New Year's, I should have my video on the Michigan Healthy Climate Plan, the deep dive on that, because it's going to be huge for Michigan. So I'll see you guys later. Thank you again. Peace out.